And like I said, I set everything up to upload, and you know, everything's good. I go downstairs and I'm talking with Kat, where she's telling me about her day playing Oblivion, and we're having a good time. And boop, power goes out of nowhere, and we're like, whoa! And I looked, and it was like 10:15 roughly. I'm like 10:15, and I look outside. I open the back door. It's like, well, it's raining a little bit, but there's no wind or anything. So I wonder what the heck caused this out of nowhere. And I look, it's the whole neighborhood. It's not just like us or localized to our street. The entire neighborhood has no power. So obviously something major has happened here. Okay. So luckily for us, we're prepared. See, I grew up in Connecticut. And in Connecticut, power outages were actually pretty frequent. I would argue we had 5 of them a year because in Connecticut, you have like the worst weather. You have terrible thunderstorms, horrible windstorms, insanely excessive heat, terrible ice and snow. I've been through so many situations where the power went out in Connecticut that I'm always prepared. Okay. So I immediately start going around the house. I know where the first flashlight is. I grab the first flashlight, and this leads me on a flashlight quest. Going through the house, grabbing all the flashlights in the house. Now the good thing is we already have a lot of candles in the home that automatically go on around 10 p.m. We have a lot of battery-powered candles in the house, particularly in the living room, that go on around that time for nice ambient lighting. So the living room already is fine. We can see everything in the living room. Like, wow, this is fine. But the rest of the house is pitch black. So I had to go around the house grabbing it, and when I finally collected all of them, I was like, all right, it's been quite a while since we had a power outage, because out here in Washington, we almost never get a power outage. It's very rare if our power actually goes out here in Washington State. Very often it would go out in Connecticut, all right? Ronnie says, was Jasper going crazy? He was definitely intrigued. Of course, cats have better eyesight than humans in the dark. So he was walking around with me, basically, as we went around the house gathering the flashlights. He was intrigued and wanted to follow me around, wondering what was going on. He wasn't freaked out at all. He was just, curious. What the heck's happening here? So, I went through the house, grabbed everything, plopped it all down in the kitchen. Okay, we've got one room light. What this is a large LED light that just is like, will fill a room, okay? That one takes a ton of batteries, but it also lasts a very long time. Then we've got 2 high-powered flashlights that are adjustable. Like, okay, this is good for walking around the house and seeing everything we need to do. And then I had 1 mini flashlight. It's one of those ones you click with your thumb and you just hold like this. And then we had another one that was a longer flashlight. This one is actually meant to go in places you can't really see well. It has like a stretchy neck, so you go around corners and stuff. And then lastly, we had a emergency radio. So this emergency radio has a rechargeable battery in it and a crank. And you can crank this crank a lot. You go, for like 10, 15 minutes, and then it charges the battery for like 20 minutes. So you can use this radio and you can listen to what's going on if there's an emergency in your area. But it also has a built-in light, but it also runs on AAA batteries. So I was like, all right, we don't know what's going on. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pop in all the batteries into everything. So I pop in basically, some of the flashlights still worked well. The 2 handheld flashlights were fine. But the emergency light, we hadn't worked, not the emergency, the room light, we hadn't used in 100 years. So I'm like, okay, these batteries probably aren't good. And I open it, and one of them had corroded. I'm like, oh, it's gross. So I cleaned it out, got rid of the broken batteries, wiped it all out, cleaned it up, put in new batteries, turned it on. Whoa, it's so bright. It's like the whole bottom floor is bright with this LED light. Like, whoa, it's so good. So we got that on. And so then I start, putting in batteries to the other things. I got the emergency radio working. But the good thing is, with our phones now, if the internet goes out, because we have them connected, obviously, to our wireless internet here, they go right to the satellite internet. And immediately I got a couple emails, one from the power company and one from my internet company, both saying, so you got a power outage, it's reported, and, our estimated time is about 2 hours, where it'll be down and it probably will come back up, so just rest easy, no big deal. It's not like this is a giant disaster. We should have things up and running in about a 2-hour time frame. All right, it's not so bad. Kat was getting upset. She's like, man, this is the one time a day we get to spend time together and relax. Now we can't do what we normally do. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I come from Connecticut where literally the power would go out so many times that it wasn't that big of a deal to me. I was like, let's pour ourselves a couple of drinks. So we did. We poured 2 margaritas. We each had a margarita. We sat there talking. She was telling me about Oblivion. I was telling her about stuff from my day and stuff. And so basically, we're just kind of chilling, And then the battery up here starts going crazy. The battery backup for the PC. Because I have a battery backup for the PC. All right. I bought it. I want to say I bought it like 2017. It was probably 2016. Okay. My old battery backup had died. And therefore, if the power went out, everything here would go out. And that's not good. For the PC, you don't want to have a PC that just goes off when the power goes out. That could destroy your PC. Oh, I know from experience. Okay. So I have a battery backup here, but it's old. It's from like at the latest. It's like 2017. So you're talking like a 5-6-year-old battery backup that's on every day, all day. So the thing, within 5 minutes of the power being out, because I went around the house, I grabbed all the flashlights, right? I got the batteries in them, and I started pouring us drinks. All of a sudden, beep, 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 beep. Uh-oh. So I come up here, and I look, and it's like, oh, you only have like 10 minutes left. I was like, 10 minutes left? What are you talking about? Why, this thing should be charged. Apparently, it wore out. You know, it's in there every day. It's plugged in. So they're giving me like desperate little time to like, you must shut everything off now. If you don't, within 10 minutes, it's going to shut off anyway. So I'm like, all right, well, what are you going to do? It said that it's not going to, the power's not going to come back for like 2 hours. So I might as well just shut down the PC. Because remember, the PC was in the middle of uploading the day's videos. It had uploaded the daily wrap, but it hadn't finished uploading the Resident Evil 1 remake conclusion, nor had it finished uploading the, you know, the Q&A and vlogging, you know, session that we had done where we determined that it would be Signalis that I'd be playing next. So those were kind of mid-upload. I was like, well, what are you going to do? Doesn't look like it's coming back in time, so I might as well just shut everything down. So I did. I shut off the monitors. I shut off the PC. And so then I said, all right, good. So I go downstairs, and my wife and I are basically just sitting in the living room. We're having a drink. We're talking. And waiting for the power to go back on eventually. And my wife is like, well, I'm getting hungry. You know, I was going to have a night snack, but now I can't do anything warm. I don't know what I'm going to do. I was like, well, what can you do? We have no heat. We don't have gas. We don't have a gas oven. We have an electric oven. So it's like not like you can turn on the oven and warm anything. I guess, you know, we're limited to what we can do. Sucks, but, you know, that's life. And all of a sudden, as we're having this conversation here, beep, 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 beep. Sounds like a time bomb ticking down. I was like, what the hell? So I come back up here. So now the battery is like, oh, you have like 30 seconds and the battery's going to turn off. I'm like, I turned everything off. So the battery itself warns you when the power's out and warns you that it has something draining it. But then also when it's about to turn off, it goes crazy, ape shit. It sounds like a time bomb ticking down. I was like, all right, whatever. So I held down the button, and finally it turned itself off. I was like, what an annoying thing. So that was off. All right. We go back downstairs, and at this point now it's been over an hour, because the power went out around, like, I want to say, like, 10:15, and it was, like, maybe 11:30, after having going up and down and all around the house or whatever. We're like, okay. And all of a sudden the power goes back on. We're like, okay, this is good, because it's only 11:30. Now, usually we go to bed around 12:30-ish. We're like, we at least now, with the power back on, we got about an hour. My wife can have something warm to eat if she wants or whatever. So then, yeah, so I had to come back up here, turn everything right back on, get the videos re-uploading, you know, no problem. And that was good. I will say this. This is one of the distinct improvements from having moved from Connecticut to Washington State. In Connecticut, inclement weather was a huge problem, all right? During the winter, you would always get heavy snow, sleet, ice. The roads would be terrible, very dangerous. You'd always have to remove an insane amount of snow every year, ton of times. Your car would constantly get buried in snow and ice. You know, it would be like an igloo. You'd have to crack it out of there. And it would be unsafe. It would be very dangerous. Then, come summer, you'd have insanely hot, 100-degree plus weather, plus high humidity, thunderstorms, tornadoes. Yes, they had tornadoes in Connecticut, but crazy windstorms that would cause power outages. And like I said, like, it would be a frequent thing. Quite a few times a year, I'd be out of power and kind of assed out and not able to do anything. There was one time, and this is documented, I was out of power for almost a week. Yeah, almost a whole freaking week, there was no power. What? Yeah, I mean, what kind of a system do they have over there that the power can go out for a week? And it did. It was like 4 or 5 days with no power. It was insane. And it wasn't like, oh, it was because there was a disaster. There's just terrible infrastructure, not prepared for anything over there. I really hated living there. Let's be honest, you know. You can always look back. A lot of people look back fondly, right? I look back fondly at the food. I look back fondly at the zoo. And I look back fondly at, you know, my family, my parents and stuff who I used to spend time with. That's it. Everything else about that place is ass. The weather, the prices and taxes, the fucking people, the government is shit. Too many people living there. Way too many, you know, what do they call, per capita or whatever. There's too many people living, the population density is too high. Crime was going up and everything as I lived there. Like, everything negative. Like, seriously, it's very hard for me to say, wow, I really miss Connecticut in a major way, because it was really bad there. Like, no exaggeration, I just did not like being there. And I was so happy when I was finally able to leave. And so, here in Washington State, this is definitely one of the biggest changes. We don't get tons of inclement weather at all, and therefore we don't have these issues with power outages, internet outages, and shit like that. I'm actually much more capable of doing a full-time job here as an online content creator in Washington. I've been far more consistent and had almost no issues since I moved here, you know, almost 9 years ago, as opposed to in Connecticut. It was like all the time we had problems. I couldn't upload and stuff. So, yeah, it wasn't that bad at all. And then it was funny because we go to sleep, you know, as usual, and we wake up this morning, and this morning I get emails. Oh, I don't know if you're aware, your power's back on. A text too, I got text messages, automated text messages. Yeah, your power's on. I was like, it's 10 a.m. and I'm getting this now. The power went on at like 11:30 last night. They waited 11 and a half hours to send out this notice as if I'm stupid. I can't tell the fucking power's on? Tell me what the hell the point that was. I have no idea. And by the way, I do have battery backup for my alarm clock, which is good, because if I didn't, this has happened to me a few times where power actually went out when I was asleep. And then the next morning, I wake up, and I'm like, why is my clock blinking? Oh, shit. Now, of course, this is back when, you know, I used to have, like, office jobs and stuff. And I have to call the office or call the job. Like, I'm so sorry. We had a power outage here. My clock is blinking. The alarm didn't go off. I slept right through it. I'm working. I'm going to be in as soon as I can. I'm embarrassed. You know, what can I do? It's just a human thing. And admittedly, most of my jobs were very okay with that. They weren't too bad about it because they realized the human thing that happens, especially if there's a reported power outage, you know, they believe you. So it is what it is. But anyway, it wasn't that bad. That was a little power outage story for you guys, okay? So no big deal last night. So, you know, not much lost of anything. I mean, if anything, the videos are a little delayed, but it's not that huge of a deal. And we're prepared. We are absolutely prepared. I even said to my wife, you know, our candles that go on automatically downstairs, I think they run for about 4 to 6 hours. I said, hey, if the power doesn't come back on tonight, just turn them back on. And, you know, that way we have light down here, right? We don't have to worry about it till the morning. We'll just leave them on. And, of course, when we went to sleep, it wasn't going to be a big deal anyway. So, anyway.